my brother and the wife used to lock my mother up. That's what really killed my mother. They would lock her up, leave her alone. No sound, nobody, nothing. The whole day that they have gone to serve God in church, that they have gone to some church conferences, some nonsense. And she was locked up until she forgot how to go to the bathroom. She would go to the bathroom where she's seated. It's such a shame and so painful that any parent would have to go through that. In the custody of the children that she gave her life. I refused to keep quiet about the injustice that I was seeing. So he pushed Mama away from me. He beat me up, kicked me up. His dogs beat me. And then the wife stood there to cheer him up and say, you need to be beaten up to know you have a big brother. I don't know what anger my brother and his wife carried towards me. Those people, all I've ever done is support them. It was during a time when my mom and grandma were visiting in the States and I was jobless. As I had said, I had taken a handshake from my former employer and taken some cash so I can chart my next course of my career. And that's how I brought my mom and grandma. And so when my money was running down and I was freaking out about not being able to find another job and really wondering, why did I really quit that job? Because it was a nice company. But I never want to look back. Like I couldn't go back. I was like, there's another one. It wouldn't be my first one to quit. My life was all about quitting. In fact, my mom used to call me the family grasshopper because in Kenya, that was my life. In the States, the same thing. But here I am, and I'm looking for a job, and I can't seem to get any offers. And I remember one day, my grandma was praying for dinner, and she said, Nzembi, before you left Kenya, you had made a promise with God. You told God, if he opens this door for you, and he gives you this opportunity to be in this world, you would want to do something in a community. You'd want to do something for younger kids in the community where you've come from. How far have you gone with that? I say, Grandma, let's not talk about that. This country, have you seen how expensive it is? I started bringing all kinds of excuses. And there were excuses, but they were valid. I said, look, I don't have a job right now. So how, I can't, that's not the thing I should be thinking about right now. Let me think about my job. Let's pray about me getting a job first. She said, whatever happened to faith? The same faith that brought you out of Kenya, the faith that gave you the life you had in Kenya, it has sustained you here. That same faith has brought us here. And now we're here. We're enjoying a wonderful life. We've met so many people. We've been wined and dined by so many different people by faith. Even now, that promise, you will have to pursue it by faith. And then she said, I'm going to give you a challenge. What you're trying to do, right now we've been praying for a job and you're not getting a job. Think about it. It could be the way Jonah's life was. When God called Jonah and sent Jonah, and Jonah decided he's not going there, he's going to, get off, and he got off, God made sure he was put in a whale's stomach and he was vomited in Tarshish, where he was supposed to go. So maybe that was something that God put in your heart. And until you answer to that, you may never find peace in your life, because look at how much God has blessed you. You have been like the most blessed grandchild I have ever seen. You have older people that have come before you in my family, but I've never seen a child that is as blessed as you. Have you ever asked your God why he has blessed you so much? And I thought, and I remembered years back in Kenya, she used the same bait to really get me to start tithing in church. And it had worked. But now it's the same bait. And she said, yeah, think about it. You must trust God. You don't start with much. Just start and throw yourself out there and tell God, by this time I want to go back to Kenya. I want to do 1, 2, 3, whatever it is that you feel he's leading you to do, and trust him. He's going to go with you. So I thought, okay, Grandma, I will. That was in 2004. I'm jobless. They're there. And it was about a week after that prayer. Grandma came down with shingles. We thought we were going to lose her. She's down with shingles. Every hospital we are going, they refuse to take her because she's 87. This thing after 65 can be deadly. They don't want her to die in their hands. So finally we end up in a major hospital. And because we'd already been told this is deadly, now I'm thinking, this is a woman who is praying for me to go back and do something big at home, and she's going to die here in America. How do I start shipping her body home? I called on to God and I said, I will do what I've said I will do. But I want my grandma alive. I want her to go back home alive and healthy. So we walk into this hospital and they asked me, okay, what's her social security number? I said, she doesn't have one. Who's going to pay the bill? I said, I don't know. I'm jobless and I don't know. Well, who's paying for what? She's staying with me. She's my guest. She's my grandma. I'm jobless. Look, I want my grandma treated. And so they took her in and thank God they took her in, and thank God for that system. She would have died. They took her in, they treated her, they put her on a drip, quickly wheeled her into an admission room, took care of her. After that, we were there for about half a day. After that, she was released with me with prescription medication, and I had to watch her and nurse her for about 2 weeks. She was beginning to gain her life back and her health back, and the pain was going down, and I got my grandmother back. Everybody I talked to, even the Kenyan community that were in medicine, were worried for her life because of the stage it was at. She had a zoster infection that had gone like into the brain, and then, shingles at that stage, deadly. So I said, okay, God has saved my grandma. During the time, I had found a job. I was on contract, and I was to be on contract for 90 days. My mom and grandma's time to fly back home was drawing closer. Meanwhile, they had just had enough. They want to come back and see their cows and goats. But I remember one thing they were saying, man, we're going to miss this. We just stay at home. They never were lonely. When I had started working, my friends would call me and say, hey, we want to pick up your parents, take them out to eat. Is that okay? Yeah. I would call them and tell them, can you get ready, someone will pick you up. They'll be taken for lunch and I don't know where else. Sometimes they'll come home at 11 o'clock at night in my house. So we'll be there and all that. And then grandma would answer my phone calls in the house. If they ask, mostly they were calling to collect payment for her hospital bill. Can I talk to Rosemary? No. She says no. Do you understand English? No. Then when they said something else, you'd hang up and laugh. And it was just dramatic. And anyway, so the bills continued coming. And I had just started working this very, very small job. I think I was earning $9.50 an hour. And I had come to like the company. They liked me. I didn't know that until they told me. But I was like, oh, this would be a nice place to work. I mean, I had a lot of freedom. And as a contractor, where, they must sign and fill and sign my time card for the agency. But they're willing to fill it up even a day that I didn't come to work and say I worked, I get paid. That was a lot of favor. And grandma, during that time, they prayed. I got that job. A week, 3 days before, they would fly home on Sunday. And so on a Friday, I woke up to work. But before that, they'd asked me, do you like the place? I said, yeah, you like it. Yeah, you'd like to be permanent, even though I'm on a first month observation. I said, yeah, they've told me 90 days and then they will consider confirming me, but I'm on my first month, but I like it. So we prayed on, I think it was on a Wednesday. That Thursday morning, I go to work. And as I was distributing mail, the vice president of the company calls me, Rosemary, when you're done, can you come see me? I thought, gosh, what have I done? What have I done wrong? And so I went, finished, picked myself up. I walked in. Yes, sir. When I walked in there, it was 2 vice presidents and a director. They say, have a seat. They say, you've done nothing wrong. You look very scared. And they say, look, we like you and we hope you like us too, because we would like to confirm you permanent after the first 30 days instead of 90 days. And I thought, oh, wow. I told them, I like you guys too. Wow, I didn't know what else to say. And they're like, yeah, that's all we want to tell you. So if you like us too, okay, go think about it. Now we know you like us, so we will see. So there was about a week to go before it'd be 30 days. So that's a Friday morning. So I went back at break time and I thought, since they like me, let me go see if they can give me maybe the following day I don't come to work. I used to work on Saturday half a day. And then I went and asked them, hey, my parents have been visiting and they're flying out on Sunday. I was thinking, can you give me tomorrow? I don't come to work, so I can at least take them shopping. They say, absolutely. I mean, in fact, today, when you're done, whatever you need to do when you're done by noon, just leave today and go and don't come tomorrow. Come back on Monday. I was like, oh, thank you. So that was, again, favor. So I came back home and I took them shopping that day and then the next day, and we packed everything. They said, okay. So I told them the story of my employers actually like me, and they told me this and this and that. They say, really? Okay, good. We go to me praying. God is going to give it to you. So they say, so when are you coming home? I said, guys, I'm just going to be confirmed now. I can't say, no. When you pray, you must have a target. You must have a target. So we're going to be going back home on Sunday. When we go, what are we praying for? When are you coming home? I said, okay, I'll come next year, December. I figured this is September. There will be December and another December. So I'm like, oh, we have a long time. So you guys can go pray for next year, December. I thought it's too far. And as they were going, they were leaving on September 17th. My visa was expiring on September 24th, my 5-year visa. So I'm telling them, guys, when you go pray, just pray. Because my visa is expiring. I don't know how that's going to work, but go pray. And then by faith, I will be working towards coming home. And what I want to do is I just want to bring Christmas to the village kids. That's what I want to do. I don't know how, but I'll do it. And they said, you will do it. And so I wheeled them out on Sunday, saw them off, they left. Got stuck somewhere chit-chatting in London. They missed their flight. They slept in London. Finally, they got home, told me they got home, and then they continued to pray for me. And I continued to chat forward. And I was hired there, yes. I stayed there for about 4 months. Another company that I had been really looking forward to joining, which was my last employer before I left there. It was called Relocation. It was a wonderful, wonderful employer. I learned a lot there. And they called me. After 6 months of really never thinking I'll ever stand a chance, because anybody I talked to that had ever been there, even Americans, made it sound like that's like going into space. You must be astronomical, you must be this. And I get a phone call, I find a voicemail at home. I was like, this cannot be. Then I start calling and nobody is answering the number that they call me from. So I decided to walk into their office and they gave it to me. So long story short, I got hired there. I was hired in a branch office, and after working there 6 months, I saw an opportunity for promotion. Again, I was told you cannot promote unless you've worked in the company for 12 months. And I said, you know what? I've always gone against the grain, and I'm going to go against this one too. I applied. I was called for an interview. When I went for the interview, the moment that the hiring director saw, she's from Kenya, that's like, hey, we're going to talk about wildlife. So I go for an interview and we start talking, and he could see my qualifications, but we talked more about Nairobi and wild animals and my village life. And that was my interview. And he's like, when can you start working? I said, give me 2 weeks so I can train whoever would come to take over the other position. He's like, oh, I like you even more. You're concerned about how you would leave the other department. I said, yeah, because if I leave my boss stranded, then what? My boss also needs to understand my job. So I worked half day here, half a day I'm training here. The other half a day I'm being trained on my new job. And that's how I joined an engineering department, doing procurement and project controls. And I was controlling projects in the entire United States from Dallas office. Something I had never done. By the grace of God, they just saw a lot of potential in me. I was always very forward and very, I came across as very determined, like very qualified, even if I had never studied it. I would apply for a job that is asking for an engineering degree. I know I don't have that degree, but I go and apply and get it. And so I got that. And that's sometimes, my people would wonder, how do you get these jobs? I remember one of them said, but you, every door you knock, you get in. How? I say, really, I can only say it's the grace of God. And that's why sijui kuringa. That's why I can brag about it, because I've only earned it by grace. And grace is very unmerited favor. And I believe it's also God's way of paying me back for how I dared believe in him when I was so young, how I dared trust him when I couldn't see what awaited me, how I dared trust him with big things, and there was so much trouble I could have gotten myself into as a young girl, but I refused. Bad company corrupts good morals, and that is true. And I never let fear lead me. You know, I thank God for the foundation that Grandma gave me, that got me rooted in the Word of God. And I trusted God who I couldn't see. And I trusted Him to do what I could only see through the lenses of faith or dream. And I went after it as if I could touch it. I remember I used to always tell my friends, you know, we keep fearing, like I said at the beginning, fear is faith that is misplaced. But yet, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but He's given us a spirit of power, of love, and a sound mind. Even where I didn't feel loved, I tried to love and I projected love. And I always felt like I have power, this power that God has given. I went after everything with that power. And it's like it commanded attention everywhere I went. I was received very well. To this day, I go some places and I'm treated in a way that I wonder, why am I treated like this? Why am I being, you know? And I've never been afraid of approaching anywhere or anybody that I felt that I want to approach. And now looking back, I went back to that office, you know, that corporate office where I was working, and I was thriving, and I would get a lot of promotions and senior assignments by senior executives. And I wondered, why are they assigning me this? You know, the president of the company and the vice president call you to assign you executive projects that are not even in line with your assignment or with your primary job. And that brought conflicts even within my immediate department, where, you know, my immediate manager and department director would feel like, well, why is the president coming to give you this assignment? They need to hire people for special projects. And why are they not coming through as there's a protocol? And I say, really, you want the president of the company to come and ask the department supervisor for permission to give me an assignment for the company? We are all just one big team in different positions. And if they've seen that I can do it and they give it to me, I'm sorry, I will not tell the president no. And I will not tell the vice president no. If you feel they should hire people to do this for themselves, then go tell them they need to hire people. Of course they could not. So they're trying to put me down, and I stood up and I refused to bite that. Having come from where I've come from, really, gosh, without shoes, you know, just tattered clothes, without anyone to show me the way, but because I dared to believe and to dream my way out of poverty, I consciously decided I will not die poor, and I consciously decided I must change the narrative, not just for me, but for my family and for the community, and really for other young people and for other Kenyans. I look back and I am so humbled by the way my life turned out. One thing I told God while I was still working there, because I had since gotten a green card, and now I had just renewed my green card. And now, and then what I had just renewed my green card, I had just gone back to the States from Kenya, 6 weeks after going back to the States. And my mind, I just could not find peace in that system. I was like, now my mind and my heart are stirred for Kenya. And I was feeling, really, I need to be back there more. But I'm thinking, but I'm also doing well here. And yes, I projected I could probably move back a few years ahead. And when God decides to change your course, there's a way He just does things, and He will bring that road to an end in His own way. The same way He brought my road to an end here, and then took me then, when a career path was over, He took me to another. This road was coming to an end. And I thank God that I was never sucked up into the luxury and the destructive lifestyle of America, which is a lot, by the way, that I never lost myself in it. I enjoyed it, but I maintained my balance and level-headedness. So I remember going back, and there was this thing, God, okay, one day, my ideal life now is to be able to live half a year in the States, half a year in Kenya. But how will that happen? I want to be doing that. I want to live that life while serving you. I want to serve the community. I want to share my experiences. I don't want to sit here and just be here 25 years later, 30 years later. I'm old. I'm just here with all this wealth of experiences that could be used to inspire other young people to dream their way and dream themselves out of their circumstances and to own their dreams regardless of what surrounds them immediately. They must see beyond their immediate environment. And I don't want to die with that knowledge because it has happened for me. I want to be able to take it back to them. I want to go to schools. I want to go to churches. I want to go wherever I could go. I want to create a platform and an organization where young people can come to be inspired and filled with positive energy and positive things other than what they've heard in their compromised background. So I said, but God, how is that going to happen? I know everything is possible with you, but this one, you know, I had dared him in so many ways and he had always come through. But I felt this one, I don't know, but okay. So I go back to the States 6 weeks later. And then my grandma, he's also, I don't know what she got into. She starts calling me and she would call me at very weird hours of the night here at 2 o'clock in the morning in Kenya. And she's calling me and I said, Grandma, everybody's asleep. What are you doing at this time? She would laugh. I was just up here, I was talking to God. I said, what are you telling him at this time? I was talking to God about this child who, you know, I see you doing great. I see you living a big life, but I wonder then what? I said, Grandma, why? Why are you worried about me? She said, I'm not worried about you. I'm getting old. And you know, you see, this was 6 weeks after I had left home. So it's like she's homesick or she's Nzembi sick or whatever it is. She's longing for me again. I'm getting old and I would like to see you as I grow older and as I leave this world. I want to be able to see you more. And what you're doing, I think you could do it here. You could do it from home. Your mom is not in very good health. And I would like for you to also spend time with her. I would like to see you around us. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, can you move back home? I said, Grandma, I've had that dream and that vision, but not now, not yet. This was 2011, she's telling me that. I said, maybe in 2015, 2016, somewhere, 5 years. She said, I don't know, what is holding you? What would make you not move back home? And I told her, I have to plan. Grandma, think about it, like I just came back from home. Every year I would spend at least $6,000 to $7,000 of my money coming here, reaching out to the community because I'll go to different schools. I'll take kids on a vacation, just expose kids. And that year, I had taken 40 kids to the United Nations. I'd said, these kids, some of them have never seen Nairobi. They've never left their village. I want to open their minds up. I look at the mind, especially a young mind. It's hard to change an old mind. But I look at a young mind as a blank canvas where you can draw anything. You can put anything there and it will stick. I look at a young mind as a parachute that if it opens up, I can only imagine how far this person carrying that mind can go. And I look at those young people and wonder how far can they go if they can open up their minds, if they can have an imagination that can work for them. I want to encourage that imagination. And so I felt, one of the things is they read about the United Nations. The UN is a huge body. It's huge. And if I took them there, I feel like it would be like a whole curriculum, like a whole classroom or a whole syllabus in one. They would learn a lot about the world, not just Kenya. But how do I start to do that? I said, okay, my birthday was coming up and that's what I did. I said, this birthday, I don't want any gifts. I told friends in the States, if you want to give me any gifts, give it towards this project. I want to go home. I want to take 40 kids from 4 schools, 10 from each school that have done very well, 4 grades. The top 2 kids from 5 grades, from grade 4 to grade 8, 2 from each grade, top. I want to take them to the UN and I want to launch a library project. So that way we can bring material to that library so that they can read. When they read, it opens up their minds, it ignites and activates their imagination. I want to see more young people really thrive and get out of the village and poverty. I feel that's the only way we can fight it. So I did a banquet, and that year we'd just come and taken, I'd come and taken 40 kids to the UN, just hired a bus, coordinated with the schools. They had the list of the kids, took them. They had never seen the KICC. They only saw it on paper. I took them to the KICC. We went to the UN. They were treated like dignitaries. They felt important for the first time. And then from there, we brought them to they hear of Uhuru Park. Where is that? We went there and had a picnic, let them have chips and sausage and soda, things that they just dream about. Because I remembered as a child, I only imagined and dreamt about such. And so we did that. And it really made me also feel like, oh, I could just do this. I could get used to this. But it takes money. It takes planning. And I go back 6 weeks later, and Grandma is calling me about coming back here. And I'm thinking, Grandma, let me first recover the money that I've spent. And let me plan about it. Let me think about it. Let me plan. Okay, think about it. A week, 2 weeks later, she's on the phone. What did you think about? I said, Grandma, we just spoke the other day. It takes time. What would keep you from moving? I said, Grandma, first of all, my dream, because I'm telling you I'd hoped to move a few years to come, I must have space. I want to create my own place where I can operate from. Because like now when I go to schools and stuff. I have no control over the operations. I'm limited to what I can do. But when I have my own central operating place, I feel like I can do more. And that's what I want to do. Okay, so what are you looking for? Space. Then I giggle. I say, are you selling some? Then I remembered that title that she feared that could be, repossessed by the U.S. government. I said, are you selling land? And she said, no, I'm not selling. I said, so do you want to sell me some? She said, why would I sell you land if I would give to other people? She said, if it's land, think about it. And let me also think about it. Okay, so get back to work. I'm working, but I'm finding no peace. No peace about going back to work. Every time I'm thinking about what I can ship back home. And I'm going on weekends or collecting things. People in America give things away. So I'm going and collecting all these things and I'm thinking, okay, then finally, how will they get home? So as I was doing that, I took some time off work to really think whether this is the right thing to do or what. And I told God, okay, you see, if I travel home with a green card, I'm limited to how long I could be gone. And if I'm going to establish what I want to establish as my long-term goal, then I'm limited. And I may not be able to do that. I may not be able to keep a career here and this. God, he is my last dare with you. If you want me to go back home, I want you to convert this green card into a citizenship. I'm going to go, and I don't want to use a lawyer. A lawyer at the time was $2,500. I said, God, if you do this for me, I swear, I will use that $2,500 towards going to clear the grounds, wherever, and create something from scratch. So Grandma calls me, as usual, says, has anybody told you anything? I said, no, what? So I thought something wrong has happened. That's when you hear such a question, you think the worst. She said, okay, I had divided my land, and I did that with you in mind because we had talked about this, and I've set aside 10 acres for you. So what is still keeping you there? Why wouldn't you come? I said, okay, now I need to kind of mobilize resources so that when I come there, at least I have something to put on the ground and get things started. And so that's what happened. And I collected resources. I sold and liquidated what I had there. And shipped what I needed to ship. So I identified a shipping company, and yes, I had collected a lot of things. Now, meanwhile, because I knew I wanted to set up a library, I had libraries at the schools, but I wanted to set up a library and a recreational facility. So I had collected just anything you can think about that goes into learning. Now, in 2012, I start packaging my things. I've set a date for shipping. Let things should be shipped. I don't know where I'm going to store them, but let them come anyway. Meanwhile, I travel home. Grandma shows me, actually sent me with my brother and my cousin actually. Go show her the 10 acres where it's sitting. That is where she will set up her thing. And that's where I started seeing some colors that I had never known in my family. We went, they're showing me, but they're telling me, no, but yours is only 2 acres. I said, okay, I've been told 10, which is why I have packed my things to move. No. She said 2 acres. My brother and my cousin. the only man that I grew up with, who still, of course, must have felt entitled, and a girl does not deserve anything. Meanwhile, I have paid their dowry. I have bought their cars. I have built where they're sleeping today. And now they want to show me I am nothing. Because their argument, you're a girl and you have no children. All this time when I was in the States and supporting the community children, theirs were the primary recipients of my charity work. I was educating their children. And now they don't see why should I be given anything more than 2 acres. Them, they're sitting on 98. They want to sit on 98. Grandma said I had 100 acres. I have set 10 acres. And that's why I never told anybody what I wanted to do with that 10 acres. Because it's mine to do with it what I want. And I have given it to Nzembi. Nzembi, I have blessed that for you to continue doing your work here, even for obeying me and agreeing to move back here. So that 2012, I had some of my things were, already, they had already been shipped. And now I'm here to kind of lay some foundations. And that's when I started seeing some animosity and resentment, subtle. They're afraid of confronting Grandma, but they will confront me. And she said, no, don't be afraid. Continue, move forward and do what I have said. Settle where I said and, continue doing what you're doing. So in that same year, Grandma, now that's when I also noticed my mom had become very emotionally fragile. During my time in the States, again, going back to these people that want to pull me down, these people that I had been lifting up. My brother at the time, he had moved to, when I was in the States, he had moved to the little room. If you remember, the room that my mother used to live in, 8 by 9, and he has a family. And one night I came and I spent a night there, actually 2 nights during my vacation, and I said, I can't be coming home to sleep here. And I told my brother, you can't inherit poverty. You must want better and bigger. And because of that, I'm going to work with you so that you can live better. I cannot feel comfortable living a good American life while you and your family are living like this, because this bothers my mother, this bothers my grandmother, and it bothers me. So I had taken him and his family, and I had put them in a 2-bedroom house in Comorock Estate. When Comorock Estate was Comorock Estate, the actual Comorock Estate homes, the original ones. I put him there, so at least he has his bedroom, the children have their bedroom, there's guest space. I bought him a car, and now he wants to fight me. Now, I put him there and I said, I'll put you here for 6 months. Because I also had my long-term plans. I'll put you there for 6 months. I'm paying the rent. I'm paying for your upkeep, even though he's working. I'm paying for your upkeep. I want so that whatever you are earning, you can save as you plan for your next life after 6 months. After 6 months, you should be stable enough with your savings to continue either paying for that rent or moving somewhere else, maybe a plot, a flat, but at least a decent life, and you have a car, and to continue, living a good family life. I will continue to support you, but the rent I will not continue paying after 6 months. So what happened after 6 months? As he was on his 6th month, he sat on the deposit. He had gotten too used and comfortable with that comfort and space. He packed his things and took a relative's truck and moved to his mother's house, where my mother, that was her retirement house, project, farming. He moved in there with his family, basically rendered my mother homeless in her house. My mother didn't know how to push that. At first, she's excited to be seeing her grandchildren and stuff. Then she's asking, and then, tutajenga hapa, we'll build here. The next thing now, she can't ask anymore. She asks, she's pushed back. Asks, she's pushed back. They've emptied her furniture and pushed her into a little bedroom. That is the only space she can call her own. When I come home, I have no place to call home other than my grandma's. So I would come home, take my mother, and we would go to visit my grandma and spend time there. When I'm leaving, going to the States, you could see my mom just teary. She's really broken. And that 2012, we taken her to Kenyatta. My grandma said, you need to take your mom to be checked. I think something is wrong. I had also observed She doesn't dare speak beyond whispers. And when she's telling me about her experience there from her son and her daughter-in-law, and how it had become the children, her home had become a family for the in-laws. The in-laws really occupied there. My mom would coming out of her bedroom, she meets a son-in-law wrapped up in a towel. Very disgusting. She goes to the living room. There's a man sleeping on the couch. In-laws. I mean, really, what do you say? What can you say about that? She was so violated, crushed, but she didn't know how to speak anymore for fear of sounding like she's cursing her own children. But what does that mean? She drank a lot of poison, which was slowly killing her on the inside. And my grandma would try to come and stand and say to my brother, you need to build for your mother because your sister also should have her own room in her mother's house. And because you took over this, build this. So that 2012, he was challenged to do that. He said he would. We went to Kenyatta. My mother really just poured it all out to the psychologist about that was what was eating her up. She was asked, so what have, she said, I have talked until I have lost a voice because now I don't dare talk without being pushed back. My daughter-in-law, I can't say anything. She pushes me around physically, verbally. My brother, if my mother talks to the son, the only son, we were only two. He says, where tutaongea, where tutaona, just brushes her off. My mother has no place to host her friends. All of a sudden, she has no place to host even her sisters. The next thing, they started to isolate her from the society. She cannot go anywhere past the church that they will go with her and bring her back home, and that's it. She can't go to grandma. She can't go to Nairobi. She has just become so confined to this small place. Slowly, my mother was isolated from the world. So this 2012, one of the things that even the doctors say, this woman is not sick. After she has shared everything, she's not sick. And we had sat in that office with the psychologist, with my mom and my sister-in-law. And I'm telling my mom, just tell the doctor what you told me, because she had told me her concerns, but I'm not the doctor and I'm not the authority. And at home, I'm still, like Joseph in the family, I'm still the least. My money talks, but I don't dare speak. It's a shame. So I said, okay, Mom, what we can do, we'll leave you here with the doctor. You can tell her what you need to say. The doctor said, yeah, that's a good idea. My sister-in-law grabs the door, slams it behind us, and walks out. So I'm getting out. My mom holds me down and says, no. She wanted me to be there. So she really poured her heart out, her frustrations and everything. She said, I just want my home back. I want my life. I've lost my life. I have no friends anymore. I can't go visit friends. My friends can't come because of the hostility here, because they're not received like my guests. I walk out, I wake up, I walk out, I just see in-laws everywhere. I mean, I have no space to call my own. This is my child. She travels all the way. She comes here. I cannot host her in my home because I don't have a home. It was very, very painful. So I came home. I told Grandma that's what the doctor says. And the doctor also said she needs to have her space back and she must change the environment. It's very toxic where she is. When I tried before that doctor visit, I tried to talk to my family and I say, Mom is depressed. She's very depressed. And I could tell she's very fragile emotionally, mentally, and she's so scared. That timidity is not of God. That's not who she is. Something has been induced in her, and now it is taking her power away. And when I came back and said, this is what the doctor says, I'm told I'm the one who made up the stories. Grandma agrees. The rest don't want to support anything I have to say. So Grandma said, is it possible you can travel with her as you go to wind up your things, at least to change the environment for her? Meanwhile, your brother is building a house here for your mother. So he was told to do it, so he started. He brought an in-law, a brother-in-law. They lived there anyway, to start digging a foundation for what would be my mother's new house. So I thought, surely when we go, maybe when we come back, we'll find a new home and she'll be told, Mom, welcome to your home. Meanwhile, that same year, he had sold land He'd pocket millions, but he wouldn't want to give his mother anything. He wouldn't even want to pay her flight ticket. He said, it's your idea with grandma, so mlipe nyinyi ndio mmesema mwende, basi lipeni. I said, you know, when I go with her, the upkeep and everything, and right now I don't have a job. Yeah, mimi hizo ni nyinyi mmesema basi ulipe. I said, this is your mother, yeah. And so we left. When we came back 6 months later, we were supposed to come back 3 months later, but the doctor there saw all that and said, no, I want to observe her. And so she was on medication and therapy for 6 months. Changed. We came back. We found that place, nobody dug one more day after we left. So we came back to the same stupid environment that was so oppressive, so crushing. So, of course, I was there for a few days, and I personally was like, I can't stay here. I had built a small tin house. It was really supposed to be my transitional office on this place that grandma had given me. After about a week here, so I would alternate. A few days there, a few days here, because my room really was my niece's room anymore, and in-laws coming anytime. My things, my bags are ransacked. I lost things through there. And my mom, bless her soul, she was so helpless. She didn't know how to do anything. My grandma, at the point, she's going blind. At that time, she was dying from rheumatoid arthritis. She can't move from Kangondo. This place is here in coma. You see how helpless that was. It was so helpless. Then I am the most helpless. You know, I can't help myself. I can't help these women. And so I asked my brother, what happened? You were supposed to build a house. She's like, unaweza nyamaza. And I was like, why should I keep quiet? Why do you want to? You've silenced my mother, the one who gave you a life. And now you've taken a quality life away from her. Now you want to silence me? I have supported you all these years. I put you up in a nice home, in a nice gated community. And now, because of your entitlement, you've come and taken over your mother's. No, you must build for your mother. And as grandma said, there must be a bedroom there for me. He said, you go build there for yourselves. I said, all right, I will build. But still, I want to be able to visit my mother. And where will I visit her? Because here I still don't see where I could come see my mother. And my mother says, don't get into a lot of noise. I'm like, no, Mom, no. This is where the silence kills. Silence kills. My grandma, as she was getting over the arthritis, she lost her eyesight. She had an infection, and through, I don't know, a mixture of eye drops and whatever happened, she lost eyesight. One day like this, walking out, and it just went, like a blackout. I felt really, there she was. Now, with all this, comes with depression, because she's full of energy, and she's lost her eyesight. So it means she has to depend on somebody everywhere she goes, everything she does. She's lost her privacy. She's lost her autonomy. You know that if I or you lose it now, you lose your mind, because you cannot come to terms with the fact that now you can't even hide even when you go to the bathroom. Someone has to undress you. Someone has to bathe you. Someone has to walk you everywhere. You're full of energy. My grandma was full of energy. She was in her 90s, but she was full of energy. She would even say, I am so full of energy. I can't go to the shamba. I can't go anywhere. She's depressed. She can't go to see her daughter, who is also oppressed. She can't speak for her anymore. So they were both going down mentally and physically. I remember my grandma went down so badly. She couldn't eat. She was so depressed, so crushed, she stopped eating. And my mom, there she is, she can't do anything for her mother. So then I'm caught in between. I'm still transitioning. I had laid my dreams out for the whole family, thinking we are one. We are the family. We'll work together. Surely they'll show me the ropes around. They'll help me. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Everything I started was either overpriced or the quality of the services were compromised, and those are from the leads that I got from basically my brother and especially my cousin. If it was a truckload of sand, it was double quoted. If it was a truckload of stones, it was double quoted. If it was labor, it was double quoted and, compromise. So there was a lot of corners cut. But by the time I was realizing it was too late, I've had to do a lot of rebuilding. Even today, there's a lot of things that I still have to renovate because of the way they were done, because I lost money through poor quality services and material and costs, the initial quoted cost. So going back to my mother and grandma, so grandma had become so hopeless. I want you to imagine your eyes just sinking all the way in, like they're as dark as this jacket. The nerves are completely dead. My grandma was struggling with that and a fungal infection inside her stomach. She's constantly in pain, so she'll be given medicine for acid to tone down the pain. And so one time I said, Grandma, I met somebody and I was talking about your condition, and they told me we can take you to St. Mary's. And so I suggested that. Everybody else is fighting anything I say. When I was in the States, they supported my ideas, anything I said, because money was coming. When I moved here, now those dollars have been cut short. Nobody wants to support or agree with anything that I say. They feel like grandma shouldn't listen to anything I say. And especially because they came to find out that I used to have these conversations with grandma, who even inspired me or convinced me to relocate. Granted, I also had that move in mind, but not at the time that I did move. So I say I would like us to try St. Mary's. And, my brother says, unampeleka St. Mary's kufanya nini? Sasa we've taken her to Kikuyu. Grandma says Kikuyu was for the eyes and it hasn't helped. But St. Mary's is for this problem. I will go. Nzembi, let's go. So I organized the day we are going. The aunties ganged up and they all took a taxi and they filled it up and said there's no space for Nzembi. So they went to the hospital. They passed where I live and they went. So by the time I was calling the taxi guy, he says, mimi niliona watu wamejaa kwa gari, sasa nitafanya nini? Nikaambiwa tuende St. Mary's. So why are they going to St. Mary's where they didn't even want to go to begin with? So I jumped into a bus and I quickly connected, and God just enabled me to be there before grandma was seen. I go to take her in, and when we went in, I asked, can we have a CT scan? The doctor suggested a CT scan. And I asked, what about an endoscopy? Can we do that? He says, yeah, we could also do that. My brother quickly cuts it. Why should we do an endoscopy if the doctor is not asking for it? Daktari, hiyo iko na maana kweli? The doctor says, yeah, it's important and it's okay, it's necessary. We can do it, but at a different time. Let's do the endoscopy. In fact, what we do, I will give her some medication and then we can do the endoscopy, and then let's see whether that helps. So what happened is she was given medication for 1 week. And after that week, that was in 2014, my grandmother never suffered that problem until she died in 2019. But she was constantly on medication. Every 2 weeks, she's in pain. Anyway, so that happened. And then we went to, when we went to do the endoscopy, they said only one person can go in. She said, I want to go in with Nzembi. That was really biting these people. Like, why is she choosing her? I didn't choose that. We went, that was checked, so the fungi had cleared. Then we went for an eye exam. And they tell us, unfortunately, and with her age, her eye nerves, our optical nerve, is completely dead at 95%. And she's in her 90s. There's no chance. We went back home. I was feeling as helpless as if I'm the one who had lost her eyesight, because grandma could not, and she was well-bodied, but she could not even sit and hold herself steady on a car seat. So I would have to bring a pillow for here and a pillow for this other side. And so we went back, took her back home, and I pray a lot. I like to say this. I am not the most righteous person, but I pray a lot. And I know the Bible says the prayers of a righteous person avail much. I believe when you pray by faith and don't doubt, God will deliver what you've asked for, just so that he can show himself as faithful. Because he says those who come to him must believe that he is and he exists to reward you according to his faithfulness. And I prayed and cried out to God for my grandmother. That woman gave me faith. That woman gave me the ground to stand on. In fact, on her funeral day, I dedicated to her the song by Celine Dion, Because You Loved Me. Because I am only who I am because that woman loved me. And so I went home, and after 2 months, 3 months, I had no peace. I was becoming depressed because of my mother, because of my grandma, and I have nobody to support me. And one day I was asleep, and I dreamt. I was in that Mabati place. I like to call it my tin house. And I was asleep, and around 4 in the morning, I woke up from this dream that was so vivid that I knew it was not a dream. There are some dreams that I've had in my life, all through my life. Some that I know that was a dream. These others, I know this was not a dream. And I woke up from the dream, and the dream showed me grandma's eyes opening. Okay, that was a week after. Okay, so after the treatment of the fungal and whatever, I in my prayers, I could see God really wants to open these eyes, but they won't open until we go to the doctor. And I asked Grandma, do you want to try again? She's like, where would we go? I say, how about we go to Loresho, to the Lions Hospital? It's like, well, let's try. I said, Grandma, do you believe God can open your eyes? She's like, if he could open, I'll be happy. I said, I didn't ask that. I asked, do you believe? She said, why not? I said, no, yes or no. And so the day she said yes, I said, okay, we are going. So I booked an appointment, and I booked a taxi, and she was picked up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then that taxi came and picked me up, and we went to the hospital. That night, before I went to sleep, I made a meal. Grandma wasn't eating. She was just dying. She was ready to die. We had had a family and relatives prayer and meeting and everything, and people really just knew she's going. 2014. And when we took her to Lions in Loresho, again, I walked in with the doctor, with her to the doctor's office, and after a treatment and discussion with the doctor, he gave us 3 different eye drops, kinds of eye drops, and he said that if you use this the way I've told you, and you're saying you're a person of faith, I believe you will see a change. At least the infection that is making our eyes, tear, will go, and I believe they will open. I said, okay. This is really against all odds that anyone's dead optical nerve can wake. I'd say, God, if you could wake up and revive dead people, you must show me this. And I told God, I didn't just move back from the States to look at my grandma go down this way. And I didn't just come back to see my mother go down this way. You must give them some life back. And we went, and I would talk to God just like that. Like I talked to God like we are arguing. So we went home, and her eyes opened within that week. The day I was dreaming at 4 in the morning is the day they were opening, that morning. Nobody told me. This was a Thursday morning into Friday morning. So I called home on Saturday, and I say, Grandma's eyes haven't opened? Thursday, tulishanga. I'm like, oh, how come nobody has told me? Because though everyone was against this treatment. So fast forward, I went to see her that same day, and we prayed, and from there now she was on a journey to recovery. She recovered her body because she started getting her mind back, because she's able to move around. She couldn't read, but she could take herself around. To me, that was more than a praise report. When I would bring my mom, because my mom now was losing her sanity and ability to really even carry out any meaningful conversation, at least Grandma could see her. And my mom, and they would just hold and hug, and I would see Grandma hold my mom's hand, and I could just see she's happy. So every 2 weeks until my mom died, I made it my duty to bring these two together, because to me it was also kind of therapy to see that at least I put my life on hold, my ambitions, to see them enjoy their last years together. Remember Grandma's dream and desire was to see me established here. And one thing she had told me is, before I die, I want to know you have your own home. I want to even spend one night there to know you have a place to call your own. And she did. And my mom. And my mom more times than Grandma. But Grandma, this time she spent 3 nights, 4 days, and she knew, and she's like, good, handshake, thank you for obeying me. And that's when she signed on a copy of the title, before she lost her eyesight. That's when she signed that no. She had signed that the time she told me to go with my mom to the States. Because remember when we came with her, when we were going now with her to spend that night there, is when she was unwell, losing her eyesight, arthritis and everything. She couldn't do anything. But I'm glad she had signed this before I went. And now everybody went kind of hush, 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 hush. When my mom was dying, one of my aunties who lived with grandma, she still lives there. And her children, one of them is that son who would tell me I have no children and I'm a girl. I shouldn't be given anything. And God had given him 3 daughters. Yeah, because that's how he feels about girls. God has a sense of humor. And so now here we are. And my mother is dying. I had taken my mother to really take care of her because my brother and the wife used to lock my mother up. That's what really killed my mother. They would lock her up, leave her alone. No sound, nobody, nothing. The whole day that they have gone to serve God in church, that they have gone to some church conferences, some nonsense. Then now I talked about it and grandma said, why are you locking up your mother in the house? Because they were doing that because grandma couldn't see and couldn't tell. When I said that, now they fenced the home and they will lock her outside the house, but she's still locked. It's just that her jail cell has grown. Now it has moved from being her room to her jail cell. And she was locked up until she forgot how to go to the bathroom. She would go to the bathroom where she's seated. It's such a shame and so painful that any parent would have to go through that. In the custody of the children that she gave her life. They're the same people who really took her life away. But nobody would dare want me challenge that. And I'm going to say this without any shame and without any regret, that my mother should still be here because I saw the path that she took. I lived in America and I saw what depression could do to somebody. I saw what loneliness could do to somebody. Even if you are 25, if you're isolated and you're left alone, you even forget how to talk to people. You forget how to live with people, and especially your family. You lose your life. You die. When you lose this, it's like a car that has a crashed engine. It's no longer a car. And so my mom was just waiting for her last breath. And when I saw that, I would ask my brother, can we still try to do something? And I would take my mother for treatment. And twice I took her to a psychiatrist, took her to psychologist. I'm sent to do MRIs, CT scans. I would tell my brother, can you help me pay this? Because I know he has money and he's selling the land where he is, which is under my mother, because that's my mother's home. And he and his wife decide this is our home. I said, so I want to know, where's my mom's home? Because if you say this is not our home, this is your home, that renders my mother homeless, and by extension, me homeless. Where is my mother's home? My mother died without a home. And this one time, I said, I want you to help me to pay for my mother's, for our mother's medical bill, because I had also been diagnosed. I was supposed to go for surgery. I was too scared to do surgery and die in surgery and then leave my mother alone. So I needed medical help. My mother needed love. It's hard to see somebody who struggled so much to give you a life, and then to see her going down like a little dog from the village without any dignity. And all I wanted to do is to really make sure my mother had a sense of dignity before she left this world. Unfortunately, she died a very undignified death. When I would ask my brother, he resorted to just silence. And yes, some people say silence is a weapon. And yes, it is a deadly weapon. Because they had known when they've silenced my mother, who am I to come and start to talk? Who am I to come and speak to them about anything? Who am I to come and challenge? I was challenging the status quo that was killing my mother and taking my grandmother's autonomy away. I mean, these are two of my strongest rocks that I ever knew growing up. These are the women who shaped me to become the person who I had become. And so when I was in a place where I can talk, you damn right I was going to talk, and I was prepared to talk, and at whatever cost, I was ready to speak for these women. You know, there's a quote that I heard years ago by Oprah Winfrey, and she said, it takes a long time for a woman to find her voice in our society. And she said, but when you find it, you damn well better make sure that voice is heard. You better make sure it's heard. Because when a woman finds a voice, she finds a voice for a community that has been voiceless for long. I felt like I was gaining a voice for my mother, for my grandmother, for myself, and for other girls that come after me. But some people were determined to silence that voice. And I'm glad I'm here today because I am not keeping quiet. I am not keeping quiet. My voice will count. When I decided to put my health issues on hold, even though it was very tricky, I had 15 tumors growing inside of me. They were at the stage where it would be like a 22-week-old pregnancy. It was a matter of time before they would rupture and I would die within hours. I needed surgery. My grandma was sound enough to understand I need surgery. But she was also sound enough to understand that I was worried about the plight of my mother. So I wasn't sure which one is better. To go into theater to get these things out of me and I die and leave my mother in this state, or to wait and nurture my mother and nurse her, maybe back to some health, maybe give her a few more years or months of smile back, and trust God to take care of my situation. I wasn't very sure. But after days and weeks of praying and listening and introspection, I felt, I will wait. Let me give my mother what I can. Let me try. And I would rally my friends at least to come visit my mom, just to smile with her, to laugh with her. If you ask my brother today, I don't know the last time he sat down in the same living room to have a conversation with his mother, even his wife, even his children. They had given the children so much power, they would lock her up in the chicken's house, because they want to clean the house and they don't want mama in the house because anatuchafulia nyumba walue cleaning. Her house, her own house. A child will never push me into my room. I will speak until I die. May God give me voice. And I speak for other mothers because I've talked to people and I've realized there are many mothers that are oppressed like that. There are many parents that are dying quietly because we live in a society that says we shouldn't talk. Ini mambo ya wazungu wa Afrika, tusifunue nguo, let's not expose our nakedness. So what if you decided to walk naked? Walk naked. I will not cover your nakedness at the expense of somebody who should be treated with dignity and respect. And so I refused to keep quiet about my family. I refused to keep quiet about the injustice that I was seeing my mother getting from our own family, her own son. Of course, her sisters didn't do much to help her enjoy her final years, and I have no shame to say that, because nobody spoke to that injustice. It's as if they were looking for fuel to add onto the fire. So, the last time I took my mother for a major check, it was an MRI, just near Valley Road. It was 16,000 shillings. I needed 16,000 for fuel, the reports, and the test and all that. And I told my brother, and he never answered my message. I called him, he wouldn't answer me. I sent a message the night before and I said, remember tomorrow I'm taking mama for the MRI that has been asked for. How much are you giving? He said nothing. He didn't answer. And the next morning, I said, and I need to pick her up by 9 o'clock. There was a young lady that I was mentoring that had really, really formed a special bond with my mother because she felt like that was her grandmother. So she really hated also to see this. And the next morning I went with her. We went to pick my mom. We found that, as usual, she had been locked outside the house, just put out there in her lonely corner. You would just find Mama just sitting like this. No shoes, just really old, rugged clothes, like a real poor woman. That day we found that they had dressed her up and put her out there to wait for me. I found a male worker there. Who knows what these male workers could do to my mother out there, knowing that she really is voiceless and nobody will hear anything she's saying. I found this male worker and I asked, where are the rest? I told, oh, they went to a church conference. You know, I said, this church conference? What church conference? When the Bible says, honor your mother and father. My mother was not honored in our own home. I went and picked her up and I have videos and photos. We tried to bring some life to her before we put her in the car to take her to the doctor. And we sang with her and just so that we can stretch her legs and stuff before we put her in the car because she was constantly seated. Her blood flow had like become almost zero. I mean, her feet are cold constantly. Anyway, so I took her, put her in the car. We went to the clinic. She was examined. From there, we went to have lunch. And then after that, a very good friend of mine met me over at the clinic. You know, at least she could understand the medical terms, so she could explain to me what exactly the doctors are saying, what the reports are saying before we take them back to the treating psychiatrist. And then the car broke down, so we stopped by a place further. We stopped there. Nobody has even called to check how we are or where we are. By the time we got home, it was around 10:15 at night. It's late. If you're concerned about your mother, you would at least call me and say, hey, you guys, it's getting late. Have you been attended to? Is everything okay? Why are you late? And nobody called. So we get home with this young lady, my mother, and another lady, a neighbor, who we picked on the road to just, we found out on our way home, and so we gave her a ride. And so we get there, and I was so infuriated. We get there, and my brother, instead, the first thing, instead of even saying, how was your day, as mother has been treated, she says, why are you so late? Why are you coming home so late? I said, excuse me? Am I a kid that you talk to me like this? Like I have no sense of time? I don't know when it gets too late to come home. I say, I've been out. You locked your mother out and left in the morning. The least you could do is call me, even find out if we picked up Mama, because anything could have happened to her. Or even ask if we've been attended to. You don't seem to care, obviously. We get here and you ask, why are we late? The car could have broken down, and it did. And here we are, and say, wacha maneno mingi. I say, no. Today I want to know, why is it that church has become more important than your mother? What is it that you're serving in that church that has more value than your mother, whom you people have oppressed so much to this state that she's in? And even at this state, you won't give any money for her treatment. You will not avail yourself to go for her treatment, because once there's a time we were called by a psychologist and he said he can't find time. And what do you want? I want to know, what do you want with our mother's life? Because at this point, I want to know. Can you put her in? I said, no, I'm not putting her in. I want you to tell me. You know, right now, I'm standing right in front of my mom's house. I still call it my mom's house because that was our house. Standing right there. And he's telling me, just put her in and leave and whatever. I said, no, I'm not. I want an answer. So he pushed Mama away from me. It's by God's grace she did not fall. He pushed her off there. You could see how shaken she was. She was so shaken. This man had anger. I don't know what anger my brother and his wife carried towards me. Those people, all I've ever done is support them. And now they do this to my mother and do that to me when I'm trying to ask, why can't we come together for this woman myself? So he pushed my mother and hit me. I grew up without a father, or any male figure for that matter. I had never known violence in the family. I thought the family was the place that you should be the safest. I thought the family was the place where you should be protected, so that even if somebody comes to attack you, the family will surround you and protect you. It was opposite in my family. It is a family where I've seen the worst form of oppression. He beat me up, kicked me up, his dogs beat me, and then the wife stood there to cheer him up and said, you need to be beaten up to know you have a big brother. You know, right now, even on this video, I can say I don't have a brother. I don't have a brother. I used to think I had a brother when I was helping my brother. I used to think I had a brother when I first moved home. I used to think a brother until that day. And right now I can say I don't have a brother. You know why? Because everything that mattered in my life, as far as family is concerned, was my mother and my grandmother. And they died. My mother, a very painful, shameful death, undignified death, under the watch of the son. And after that, he beat me up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And when I left my mom and I went with my friend and this young lady, and I couldn't find sleep, but I found a lot of peace. At 2 o'clock, I was still up, trying to understand what I did to deserve that. What did I do to deserve that? This man feeling so entitled because he had become a millionaire, selling property that my grandmother bequeathed to my mother and put him as a custodian, but it's about him. He never spent 1 shilling to take my mother to a doctor or any therapy or anything, or vacation. When they're going to see grandma, they would lock my mother up. So I looked at all that and I said, I'm going to apologize to him, even though he violated me. And I wrote a message at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, whatever I did to provoke that kind of anger, for you to assault me, forgive me. All I've ever done in my life is to love you and your children, and is to support you and to help you to rise. And that's what I get. I said, okay, that aside, we must still find a way to have a dialogue on how we're going to work together towards helping mother to regain some dignity. And I left that message. He's never answered that message. He took it and forwarded it around and said, I've insulted him. I don't know what part of that message is an insult, except maybe somebody needs to either get a dictionary or go back to his English class and understand what that meant. But I did that, and I saw no response. And 3 days later, no response. The 4th day, I woke up and I said, you know what? This must stop. And if I don't stop it now, it will happen again to me or to somebody else in our family. And so I woke up after 3 days. Because when he beat me up was at night, so 3 nights. And the 4th day, I went to report to the police. And that is the worst thing I could ever do to this man. It's like, who dare you report? How dare you do that? I reported. Luckily, I found an officer that was very empathetic and also had a lot of empathy over the story and the plight of my mother and what she'd been going through, and the circumstances that led to my assault. And it became that I am reporting my brother to the police because I want what he has, that I want what he's sitting on. Surely I had nothing, I've never admired anything about my brother. What success has he had? I'm not talking about this with any pride, but my brother, all he's ever had is what he's been given and sold and made more from what he's sold. He's never worked hard enough to buy anything for himself. If it's cars, I bought him cars. If it's a house, even where he's sleeping, I built that place. So what is there to be jealous about? I never thought we should be competing. I thought we should be complementing each other to grow. And even my grandmother one time said, "You're just two. Your sister has supported you so much." My mom said, "I carried the two of you in the same bus. You only got off at different bus stops, but you shared the same bus. What's the problem?" But he felt so invincible, so untouchable. So I reported. And so this officer took the details, and then the next morning was on a Saturday. And I had given the details of my brother's car. And so this officer was off duty, and as he was checking out, going to sleep, he saw that car. And he had told me the story of his sister who had been assaulted by his husband. And this officer decided, my sister will not be assaulted. So he said, I am protecting my sister from her husband. Your brother is the one to beat you up, and it's about your mother. So he, even though he was off duty, he decides, no, I'm not going to sleep when this guy is free. So he took him in and got him arrested. He was locked up, and within minutes, he has called the whole world, and they have rushed to bail out this prince and really condemn this bitch. Let me just say that. That's what I have been labeled. That how dare she take her brother. So we have a relative who was very senior in the government back in the day. And so because she's like, okay, this is, I think, is the one they appointed to confront me about this. So she calls me. They never call me, never check on me. After I moved back from the States, really, I became very unpopular because there's no shopping I'm bringing. There's no dollars I'm bringing to anybody. So I get a call. I wake up this morning and I get a phone call. I was getting ready to leave the house and I get a phone call from my aunt. An auntie. Actually, she's the one that my mother follows. Like, yeah, how are you? Good. So you took your brother to the cop station, like with such sarcasm. I say, no, I did not. His actions took him there. I did not take him to the police station. But she said, so what exactly happened? And because I know he has fed them with a lot of garbage that is in his favor, and I had already seen their ugly side because nobody cared to even come and stand in for my mother to really fight for her right, to fight for her dignity, to fight for her space. I was alone. I really did not care about anybody at that point. Only my grandma seemed to listen to me. But then she was also helpless and hopeless. She's blind and she'll only go where they choose to take her. So I tell her, Auntie, whatever you were told, so be it. I am not telling you anything other than what you were told because you've already been fed with what you've been fed with. So please, let's not get into this. I'm getting ready to leave the house and I'm sorry I cannot have this conversation. That was the end of that conversation. And I left. This is an auntie that, everybody feels like when she coughs, you jump. Gone were those days. Gone were those days that I would jump. Because again, fear is very detrimental to anyone's health and joy. And God has given us a spirit of love and a sound mind. But fear comes to take that. My mother had lost her sound mind. My mother had lost her sense of love. My mother had lost her power. I was not going to allow anybody to take that away from me. And so I walked out. I did what I needed to do. Meanwhile, I get a phone call a few hours later. My brother is calling me to the cop station because the whole clan has arrived and they want him out. And, they've been told, we'll release him on cash bail if the complainant comes. So I came and then they asked, they were using a cop as a mediator. And they asked him, hey, can you ask her, we want to go and have some family talks. I'm thinking, why the hell have they waited all these years to see my mother dying to even start saying they'll have any family talk? Which, by the way, they still never had any talks about my mother until she died. Such liars. I mean, I have no regard, I'm sorry, for our clan, our family systems, our traditional African systems sometimes. I have no regard for them. And I can be called an alien, and I wear that with pride. I don't care. Because if you can watch your own person die, and especially a woman or an elderly person or a child, because they are voiceless, and you, the majority, the clan, the community who has a voice, you just keep quiet and watch that person die, what respect do you have? Really? Why should you demand that? So he calls me there and They asked me if I can give them, if I could give dialogue a chance, and I thought, dialogue? I say, well, if they want to talk, why haven't they talked? Well, that's why we want to talk now. You should have seen them all humbling, they're almost kneeling down, because they know what this could mean. This guy could go into jail for so many years. It is criminal because he has assaulted me. It is criminal because they have abused their parent. I mean, and robbed her of her dignity and her very basic social human rights, even the rights of integration. So I have said, okay. So they asked, when can you be available? I said, I don't know. Then my brother said, even now, why can't you go home and talk? I said, you better shut the hell up. I told him that. You better shut the hell up if you even want this to have a chance. We are still at the cop station. You have dictated things enough, long enough. You will not force me. And don't try to aggravate me more than I already am. Don't. So the aunties told him just, there are people there to talk for him. He still wants to talk. He feels like, I don't know, some people feel like, some men, I'm sorry to say in our society, feel like because they are men, I don't know, they are little God or who they are. Who the hell gave them that power? They are human beings. We are human beings. And there is no man who has been birthed by another man. We give men life. They must respect us as women. They must respect women. And it's unfortunate that we are seen as the least. And we are given the least, platform to talk, to express ourselves. And no wonder there's still so much battering at home. So I said, no, I'm not available today. When will you be available? I told her, I will let you know. And so I went home. And I got a phone call that evening from a family elder. And I said, it's a Saturday evening. Excuse me. I cannot give you a time right now. Let me absorb all this. And so they allowed me, and he told the family, hey. So I agreed to meet with them on Tuesday. I called him on Monday and I said, you can tell whoever we can meet on Tuesday. So they decide we meet at Grandma's. And their goal was, because we are at Grandma's and she is the queen of the family, surely I'm going to surrender. And I had decided, I don't care. I must be hard. And I cannot just let them hit it the first shot. It must cost them something. Time-wise, it must cost them some headache and something tangible. And it's not just for me. It's for me and it's for my mother again and for others. And so we are sitting there, and then one of my aunties says, sio wa kwanza kufungiwa, wanafungiagwa. I said, really? This will be the last time my mother is locked up. If you say they are locked, let them be locked up. But this is the last time that my mother will be locked up by anyone and be left alone. Yeah, this is the last time. Yeah. I said, you will not talk to me like that, auntie. With all due respect, you will not talk to me like that. I will walk out of this, boycott this meeting, and you can forget about it and let the law take its course. I was pissed because this auntie feels, because she's the oldest in the family also, she can talk to me the way she wants to talk to me. And the oldest elder also. Now, as we finished, and I asked them, the worst part is we're sitting here. Not one of you has even opened your mouth to ask, oh, you said you were beaten up. The dogs also beat you. You went to the doctor. How are you feeling? Where were the injuries? Not one has asked. You're just concerned about how we can get this case out of the law enforcement officers. That shows me you still don't care about me. You don't care about my mother. You care about this guy because he's who is he? Yes, he's my brother, but right now I don't even know who he is, because a brother should protect. And the Bible says a friend loves at all times. A brother is born for calamity. And we also told, don't go to your brother's house at the day of trouble, in your day of trouble. That time I was just like, this is not the one I would go to, certainly. He has shown me. So when we were finishing, the oldest elder asked, so what are you thinking? You should just go and withdraw that thing. I say, it's not that easy, sir. He say, sasa tumekaa siku nzima, we have wasted the whole day. I say, if you think you've wasted, I've also wasted my day. So I say, okay, I can see you still want to push your way and your agenda. We came here to dialogue, but I can tell there is no dialogue. You still want to dictate your way, sir. I respect you, but by all means, please respect me. And that was the end of our meeting. They say, you know, we have until Thursday, and that was on Tuesday. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what to say. My brother's twin sister-in-law had been crushed and died the day after he was arrested. So it was tragedy now in the family. So he says, oh, you know, we may need to ask for an extension. You know, the police can move the deadline from Thursday to another day, so we finish this. They said, see, why don't you go talk to him? I said, no, for him. I said, no, you let him go talk for himself. I'm not the culprit here. Who was arrested? So who needs the extension from the police? He needs it. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but let him go and ask for them to extend. And he did, and they gave him another week, actually 3 days, I think it was 3 days or so after the burial. And so during that time, I would still go and visit my mom. But in the meantime, the police had made orders. Now, this would never have happened, Justus, if I had not stood up and made my voice heard and made my brother arrested. This would never have happened. My mother would still be locked up and left alone. You know, from the day my brother was arrested, they immediately had to hire someone to stay with. My mother was never without a companion until the day she died. And at least if that's the least victory that I got from my mother before she died, then it was well worth it. They were told, you know, if they were told that the police or the officers would be watching, and they should never find that woman locked up or left alone at home. There should always be someone with her, a woman. And they did. Anyway, so after the funeral, they reconvened the meeting. And now this time they have called now the chairman of the clan. They think because there is a chairman involved, they will just come and talk. Now, I had never met a chairman. I didn't even know who the chairman is. I just know that there's a clan. But again, they had made it look like girls don't belong to the clan. But I see clan meetings where girls go. So I wondered where I belonged. Why do I have to meet my clan chairman in a sitting like that? I should have had been introduced before and told, this is, by the way, this is what we do in clan meetings. I still don't know what happens in clan meetings. And anyway, it's all right. So this man, because now the funeral is ending, so now they want to reconvene a new day for mediation, he writes a letter, a short note, and he sends, I don't know who was sent to this day, some guy who came and gave it to my caretaker through the fence. You know, that's not the way to deliver an official message. And so I just found a note. You are required to meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I saw the stupid note and I read, oh, I am required. I will not even communicate. I went about my day. Later in the evenings, they know they have a meeting in the next day. So then they've checked their schedules and their schedules agree. Nobody cares whether my schedule agrees with theirs or not. They just want to impose this on me. I just show up. This is the chairman. I didn't care. I called him that evening around 8 o'clock. I told him such and such, I'm not. I sent that note in the morning. I said, first of all, sir, I don't know who you are. Please don't raise your voice at me if you want to even have a meeting. Don't raise your voice at me. The same way you guys consulted with each other to find that tomorrow is a good day, you should also have had someone consult with me to see whether tomorrow would be a good day for me. And then you can set a meeting. So I'm not available. So when do you want us to? I say, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm not available tomorrow. And I will not know until tomorrow evening when I can be available. You know, we only have 3 days there. I say, yeah, so I'll let you know tomorrow. Relax. And so I waited until the final day, which was going to be, I think on another Thursday evening. So they have until 11:59 that night. So I waited, and that Tuesday night, I communicated with one of the family elders, and I said, I think I can meet on such and such a day if they're available. Other than after that, I don't know when else I can have time. So they quickly moved, and we had a meeting, which was now chaired by the regional chairman. I don't know where the region extends to. And he came with his committee. And you know, they're all coming, basically they are a defense team for my brother. My defense team was me and God, period. My grandma was there not knowing where to stand anymore. She's feeling so lost and so confused. This is not the kind of family she raised. She's blind. She will be told whatever they want to tell her, you know. And now, this is what they used. They knew I loved my grandma, and I had a soft spot for her, and she had a soft spot for me. And so they'll tell me, some relatives, you know, you're causing grandma a lot of headache by doing this. I say, oh, I am. It's always about me causing the headache. Have you ever thought about how much headache you're causing me? Have you ever thought about how much headache my mother has been caused? Have you ever thought how much headache it's even causing me to be standing here to talk to you? You're telling me I'm causing grandma headache. You always want to push it back on me and then inflect and deflect, you know, on me. If you think I'm causing a headache, then let's not have a meeting. Let the law take its course. I don't know why you're moving grandma from this to there. So we sat there, and when the chairman talks, and then the other whatever clan members talk, they are talking just to support and protect and defend. My brother and his wife, who was also there. People need to go to school, by the way. People need to go to school. We sat there, and I would argue, even when I argued about what grandma had given me, that I had realized that it's like they're trying to fight. They got up, some relatives there, and said, no, that's not what you were given. And then I said, anyway, that's not why we're here. Let's first talk about why we're here. And then let's handle the other things later. And so they said, the chairman said, you know what? I'm tired of this. Nzembi, go this way. That's me and my brother. Go this way. Mi ndio nitaamua sasa. I'm the chairman. I knew, okay. We went. A few minutes later, we were called. Even ndivyo tumeamua, and I'm the chairman. And this is what we have decided. Nzembi, this is what we will give you. It will cover your medical bills and whatever. And this ends this meeting and these conversations. And this brings this case to rest. You know, at that time, I won't lie to you. At the time, I had taken my mother to live with me because I just felt like I need to spend some final moments with my mother. And because it's because of her that I am dealing with this, I want to spend time with her. And I had taken her the day of the funeral that I had told you. And then I'm told, aliiba mama yake. Anyway, so I'm here with these people, and now when this chairman decides he's going to give what he's going to give, I look back and I said, you know, my mother is at my place. She's with that young lady that I'd been mentoring, and at least I know she's safe. But I am not going to let anybody here like dictate me to doing what they want. And I decided if we cannot come into at least something mutually agreeable here, I'm not having another meeting. And when he would talk, he doesn't want me to say. When anybody else is talking, he gives them audience. When I try to talk, I'm shut. You know, I got up and I said, you know what? I think I'm done with this meeting, and I think let's just call it quits and let everything happen. Whatever was supposed to happen, happen. No. That's when he said, tumeamua hivi. This is what we're going to give you. He said, Nzembi, I'm going to ask you, and I don't want to hear a story. It's either yes or no. Will you agree? I got up. I said, no. I sat down. What? Why would I say, you said you don't want a story? No. So everybody, Nzembi, stop being difficult. And I'm not being difficult. And guys, you're really continuing to hurt me. Because no one wants to hear what I have to say. Anyway, we had our talk, and a lot of it also had to do with my mom and how she had been treated. And nobody seems to see anything wrong with that. Because they want to defend this guy. Because guess what? He's always there for everyone's wedding, everyone's pre-wedding, every church gathering, every fundraiser, he's giving. So they want to protect this little king. You know, you don't want to hurt or mess with the king because you could lose all these goodies. Really, I didn't care. And I stood there and I said, I cannot believe nobody can see anything wrong with this. Violation of human rights for my mother. Violation of human rights on me. Assault, by the way, is a crime in the Kenyan Constitution. So one of my cousins got up the one who used to tell me I'm the girl, I shouldn't what, he gets up. Taka kuuliza swali. Hii maneno tunaongelelea. Yeye ndio wa kwanza kuchapwa ama wanachapagwa? I said, gosh, I'm going to answer that. I was put down. I said, I will answer that. And if you don't give me a chance to say, then again, we can't have a dialogue. This is not a dialogue. Someone got up and said, oh, hey, watu wanachapagwa. After that, you have to slaughter, I don't know what, to make peace and whatever. So I got up, and I was told, look, Nzembi, what did you have to say? I said, this is what I have to say. Even if you've been beating your women, your sisters, your wife, or whatever, if that's what you want to continue doing, yes, you've asked, ni ya kwanza kuchapa. I said, yeah, for me it's the first, and it will be the last time any man is going to put their hand on me. And I hope it's also a lesson. As I stand here, I told them, I hope it's also a lesson that even you, if you're sitting here waiting to go beat your sister, or you've beaten them before now, they get to hear about this and see what has happened. I don't think you want to go that route again and just beat them up. Because guess what? They'll have a voice. They will know that they can actually take action. Because that's why you've oppressed women and girls to be voiceless. So anyway, long story, that happened. I stayed with my mom. And after a while, my grandma insisted that my brother takes my mom home. Says, you need to take your mother back to our home. Because she really wants to be in our home. And besides, you're our son. You're the one who moved into her home. You need to take care of your mother. Your sister is a single woman. She is free. She could get married anytime. She could go wherever. She has the work she's doing. And you and your wife has a lot of work to do. You must take care of your mother. And your sister must have a right to visit her mother anytime she wants. And when she was given that command, I wasn't there, so he came and took her. I had put her in a place, a care facility, as I also tried to regain my, energy and all, because I went to take her for checkup, and the doctor told me, if you don't take care of yourself, you're the next one that's going to go down. You will crash. Caregiving is not easy, and especially this is your mother, and you've inherited her when she's in such a broken state. It takes a lot of mental, emotional, physical, financial, muscle. And so he was told, you must take care of your mother. So he went to discharge her and take her home. And he was told from now on, there must be not just a caregiver that lives there. There must be a palliative care. Somebody must come home to massage your mother. Somebody must, things that I used to talk about and do, and I'm seeing like, all this, zimitu za wazungu. His wife even dared stand and say, she thinks she's so educated. I say, by the way, I don't think I'm educated. I actually am educated. And sionagi tu nimesoma. Na wewe uende pia usome. And so we're there. And when mom was brought home, at least thankfully to my approach and my taking my step, she was discharged with a caregiver and a palliative caregiver, somebody who came as a physiotherapist to massage her, at least to help with the blood flow and everything. But my mother really was losing her will to live. Really, there was not much left. Her eyes had dimmed. She would just look at me and just smile. And at the time that I was with her, I had built a house that I want her to feel like she has a sense of ownership, even though she spent time between there and my house. But I told her, Mama, this is for you. You have been asking me about where's my house. I lost. Okay, Mama, this is for you. So I had built her a house next to mine. And then in my house, there was her bedroom. So she had a choice. So sometimes we would spend time in our house. Sometimes we would spend time in my house. And if I was never there, she was there with somebody all the time. All the time. And would sing and tell stories and laugh and just get out. I built for her a little garden. She loved gardening, but she had lost that. So she'd go and garden, and sometimes she doesn't even know what she's picking. She's picking the raw tomatoes, not the ripe ones, but at least she had that sense of that. But during that time is when my relatives now were coming to actually to try to mutate and cut a portion of what Grandma had given me to become theirs when my mother was dying. Do you know there's so much I signed around that time, even to go sign the consent to release my brother. I signed in a very distraught. I was not in my right state of mind. First of all, they say, usipofanya hivi, you're really doing wrong to your grandma, unamkosea, unajua, unajua hata mama yako angekuwa anaweza kusema, atasema musameane. I say, kusameana doesn't mean that the other person does not suffer the consequences of their actions. Kusameana doesn't mean that the other person doesn't serve the term that they have earned. But, but I was really taken around. The next thing I knew, I've signed a release. And that's how it all ended. And now, going forward, I traveled. The next thing, my mom passed away. My brother to this day has never told my mom passed away. In 2017, I was called by a relative who told me, and then I traveled home. I tried to go visit my mom's body. My brother tells me he has no time. They're digging the grave. I told my auntie, she said, I have a choir rally. I said, guess what? I'll carry my birth certificate. I'll take myself to that funeral home, and I will show my certificate, and by God, I will see my mother's body. They realized I was determined, so they took me. And then the next day they took me, and I went. My last desire, my last wish was just to see if I can I live with the fact that my mother is gone? I used to tell Grandma, pray for me so that if I ever lose a loved one, I can be as strong as you are. Because my grandma was the strongest person I ever knew around death. So I went, I saw my mother. She's really lifeless. And I said, I want to see her body. I want to touch her. I want to know she's gone. And it was a tough moment. But it was a moment I needed. Because I wasn't there, and they neglected her need for medication. She stayed in the house 4 days, hadn't eaten, she aspirated, died in her bed. She could have died in a hospital. I went, I held my mother's hand. Whenever I used to visit my mom back in the day, every time when she was alive, even when she had lost the ability to sing or to speak, we would hum, "It is well with my soul." And she would harmonize with me so well. She did the best alto that I've ever heard anybody sing. So I would sing the lyrics, she would harmonize just humming. And you could just see her face light up. Every time, every day I went to see my mom, I would find her like this. By the time I'm living there, she's a different person. And that's the kind of life she had when she stayed with me. Every day we sang, we told stories. Kids came there, she told them stories, they told her stories. Like she would laugh with them and all that. I would take her to church. I have photos and videos of her just alive again, laughing, even a day after I took her.
Beautiful. You did great, Mama. You did good.
So I go to the morgue. And I hold her cold hand. It was still soft. And I spoke to my mother. I know she's dead. But in my mind, I felt like I'm talking to her, as if she can hear from the spiritual realm or whatever. And I reassured her, Mama, I will be okay. And I am glad, Mama, to see you. Being free from the suffering that I had observed my mother go through. It was hard to lose my mother. But I had started losing her when she started losing her state of mind. And so it's like I lost my mother twice. I lost her once, and a few years later when she died, I lost her the second time. And I told her, Mama, we are going to sing this song one more time with you. And so I sang it holding her hand. I never thought I could have that kind of courage. But I believe it's the prayers I used to tell Grandma to pray for me. And we sang with a couple of friends, and we were there with my brother who didn't want to take me anywhere. And when I started singing and breaking down, he walked away, and he's telling my friends to walk away and leave me alone. And my friends said no, and they stood there by me. And so my friends, there was Jane, there was Doreen, and there was Martha. God bless you so much. They stood with me at my hardest time. And I sang with my mother, and we left, and the burial day came, and I was strong enough. I had prayed that I would be able to sing a song and give a tribute, and I was strong enough. I had lost my voice, but I sang for my mother, and I told a story even about her crazy moments in the States where she would sit and have a picnic by the roadside with my grandma, and things that people did not know about my mom. But I really know there is a lot more that the world should know about my mom, and as a result, I thought not just, especially for her, but I wanted that her life did not just end in vain. I decided I'm going to write a book, a short autobiography, a short biography for my mother, so that people can know who she was before her life and her zeal was taken from her, and what I would want the society to learn about living, allowing our parents to live in dignity, especially in their final years. No parent should die early because of the hostility and the oppression and neglect and abuse from her children or from the community. Nobody should. And I feel like that is something I want to do for my mother. And when I do, I'll let you know. And we will share probably on your platform. I came and buried my mother. And as I told you earlier, I had put my project on hold because of her and my grandma. And then I buried my mother, and a few months later, I was able to gain courage to go have my surgery, which I had put on hold. And luckily, it went well, although I was in oxygen for almost 8 hours. I almost died. You know, my aunt who was there, the one who called me about my mom and my friend, they were there until 1 o'clock in the morning from afternoon. And the surgeons weren't sure I was going to make it. There were 4 surgeons. I was restored. And after 4 days, I was discharged. And I went through that alone. Not one family member came to check on me during my recovery. Not one family member cared how I paid the bill. It was a huge bill from Aga Khan, and many would be like, "Oh, alijipeleka kwa hiyo ajipange vile atalipa." And they had money. Nobody paid, but God came through for me. God is faithful. My grandma would ask, she was blind, so she would always ask every day or 2 days for a phone call. And we'll talk. That is the one person who visited me the most during my recovery until I was able to now go visit her. And after a month, I was still not able to drive. It was really bad. And when I finally, a month ended, and she said, "I feel like I haven't seen you in person. Please find a way to come." So I called a taxi. I was taken to see Grandma. We sat, we enjoyed, we commemorated my mother. And fast forward, you know, I was healing. And then that, after about a year, actually about 2 months after my surgery, Grandma called me home. And this is one thing that I think was the most difficult moment that my family has to live with up to today. My grandma, the day we buried my mother, she asked that we do a family reunion. She wanted to bring her people together. You know how in our African culture, older parents, when they sense they're dying, they want to call them, bless them, have a meal. And she kept asking for a family reunion. If you don't have a cow, I'll give everybody, nitawapatia ng'ombe tukule. She doesn't even eat beef. And they kept pushing it, for her, she became mentally disturbed, and she would cry to me. Because every 2 weeks I'll go see her. She's like, "Is it because I'm blind? Is it because I'm worthless now that I'm bedbound? Is it because I have no mother?" For a woman who is at about 100 crying like that, she longed for her mother because she felt rejected by her children. Because she asked, "Nilizaa watoto, wako na wajukuu, wamebarikiwa, wako na mali, wanafikiri ni ng'ombe mimi nataka. Do they know what I want? Wanajua nawaitia nini?" So January 2019, I went to visit her. I took her a wheelchair because again, nobody was doing it for her. They say, "Anataka tumchangie, tumtolee." I said, "Grandma, si mtu wa kuchangiwa wheelchair." So I got her a wheelchair and I took her. And I didn't do that out of pride, but really, why are you delaying her mobility and her ability to enjoy what's left of her life? I took her a wheelchair. We had a lot of fun. I told her that's our first car, and she drove it with a lot of pride, and boom, boom, and she said she was the makanga. It was so much fun. And we sat there, and she asked, "Nzembi, you said the family cannot make time to have a reunion with me. This is my 3rd year. Why am I begging? Do they know why I want them? Do they know? Au ndio ameniekea siku zangu?" She said, "Okay, do me a favor. You have control over your friends. Go find me your friends, the ones you spend time with, and bring them, and we have a meal. I want to have a meal with your friends. Tafuta mbuzi, ulete." So the following weekend, I left there on Sunday. That following Saturday, we were there with my friends. We slaughtered a goat. We made all the food at my place, and we ferried it. Every car that was there carried stuff. And we went there. We had a wonderful, wonderful time of celebrating life. And I believe in celebrating life with somebody so that when they're gone, you're celebrating or you're continuing what you had done with them. If you never gave her a chance to celebrate with you, what are you celebrating when she's gone? I did the same for my mother. No one told me, but I felt. And I did it, and exactly 6 months later, she passed. Grandma, we did it January 26th. I traveled in May. She died July 26th, exactly 6 months to the date we had our goat. Now, when I traveled the following month, they knew I've gone, the family. They started planning that reunion so that they can do it while I was away. But God is not mocked. Let me say this. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15:33, God is not mocked and is not, you can't lie to God. Whatever you plant, you reap. They wanted to do that behind my back. God screwed it all up and canceled it. 3 weeks to their date that they had planned, Grandma passed away. They did not achieve their ends. That WhatsApp group that they were planning a feast became a funeral planning group. They did not tell me. To this day, there's no family member who's ever told me. But through their regrets and all that, oh yeah, shetani ni mbaya, kifo ni mbaya. Imagine tulikuwa tumepanga, we'd planned to have this with Grandma. Oh, now she's dead 3 weeks. So they are saying that. They said that among the mourners. I was out of the country. They tried to rush and bury her before I got home. Things didn't work. The people that were supposed to officiate it either made themselves available or truly their schedule was not possible. And, it happened so that it lined up with my schedule. I was able to land, spend a day and bury my grandma. And then during the time is when one person said, but hey, Nzembi, did you know they were planning this? They were planning to have a feast while you're not here. This one who was telling me, money happened to go with me when we did the goat. I said, how did you know? He said, so and so and so and so and so and so. They've told me, and they're regretting. They say, "Aki shetani ni mbaya." I say, "Shetani is mbaya. Shetani is just busy doing shetani's business. When you invite him, he must come and do his thing. But if you don't invite him, he won't have space." So it ended like that, and I'm so glad that was revealed. So I got to know what they were planning behind my back, and then later on, I confronted the person who started the group so that they know that I know. But I'm so glad that I gave my mother and my grandma the honor that I could, their last wish that I could. And they died. And then I feel after that, COVID hit, and Now, last year, 2023, is when I can really say, in 5 or 6 years, is when I really started recollecting my pieces to live my life. I didn't realize grief can be something. It can take so long. Because really after my mom, I've never had a break. My mother died. I had major surgery. Grandma died. COVID hit for 2 years. So those were 5 years back to back, back to back. And being so alone, where families do things you never got to know, you only see it on WhatsApp. I'm like, what is this? So I have made peace. And I thank God one thing. My grandmother saw all that when she was still able to see through her mind because she couldn't see physically. And I would complain and Grandma, but why? She said, do me a favor. You've done the best you can to try to recollect your family and relationships, but you will lose your mind pursuing people who obviously have shown you they have no business to do with you. So she told me, embrace your friends and let that become the family that God has given you. And you have many friends. You have friends here. You have friends all over the world. God has given you a family all over the world. And Nzembi, you will never be alone. And it's why she called to have a feast with my friends. And at the end of it all, she spoke blessings to them. To this day, when I look back, I'm glad I can sit and tell a story. I am not ashamed of any part of what I'm sharing, but I am ashamed of the fact that I'm ashamed for some people, rather, who probably look back with regret. And I pray that even now going forward, I continue to build the legacy that was passed on to me by my mother and my grandmother and that God put into my heart. I want to live a life so that when I'm dead, I don't want to be remembered by the number of buildings that I left or cars or businesses, although those are good things, but I want to be remembered for the lives that I changed with my voice and my touch and my gifts. Anything that I can give to help a life or to add some life into a life. That's what I want to live for. That's what I want to be remembered for. And I want to live to tell my story so that when I die empty, and I don't die and people start making up stories that were not true. Or say, oh, we loved her so much. Just tell the truth. We couldn't stand hearing her open her mouth one more time. And so until God shuts my mouth, I will keep talking. I will speak until the truth stands and until more people find their voice in the society, and especially young girls and kids. And for all that, I thank God. I give him all the glory for the journey that he's given me. Long, hard, but colorful by all means.